Yeah, the connection here is really not great. So yeah, and you can watch it on YouTube. Yeah, so much passion. But what I really liked in what he said is that's what we discussed Monday. Is well, yes, art does something, and art has an effect on life and people, and if it doesn't, I would tend to say that it's not art. It's just something else. But that effect does not have to be stated or expressed by the artist. That's the whole idea. It doesn't have to come, okay, I'm coming here to change your life. And what about becoming Christian? Or something like this. So it's really something different that we need to to explore. So I had a few notes, and I'm repeating over and over the same thing, but the to restate everything, to me the definition of poetry, it is a question of relationship with language. And it's not a question of usage of language, but a question of relationship in a highly interrelated sense. It's not the language as an output or an avenue for poetry. It's the idea of poetry implies a conflicting relationship with language. And and it's, to me, it's the sign of poetry, that conflictual relationship with language, which have been expressed by many people, and Jacques Lacan in particular would be someone dealing with poetry and with that immense difficulty of expressing the subconscious mind with language. And at the same time acknowledging the fact that the subconscious mind is structured by language, however. And also Jacques Derrida with the notion of difference. And poetry to me is really what reflects in all of the various historical eras that state of unsettlement between the mind and the language. So, and then, so that's, so for example, if we want to talk about different kind of poetries and explore the idea of digital, synthetic, musical, video poetry, we need to absolutely reject everything that is looking for the poetic aspect of things. Okay, like a poetic video, like someone would say from a moment that it's poetic. Okay, that has nothing to do with what we want to explore, but what we want to explore instead, it's across any media, it's every time that there is some kind of conflictual relationship with the medium itself. And when we look at video poetry, and that's also coming back on the term synthesis, so instead of juxtaposition of media, like in most video poetry that you see, and at the end you always have the portrait of the author reading his own poems, that to me is not good. Okay, what we are looking for instead of juxtaposition of media is that convergence of media or synthesis of media, when the written, the oral text, the image and the sounds are all together engaged in that conflictual relationship with language and with the medium itself. That's the whole idea. And then I think I'm done, and maybe the next thing I want to show a few examples of digital poetry online, and then I would like for us to start working on the 13 ways of looking at a blackbird, and I propose to start working on that. So examples of video poetry, and it's difficult to find. I spend quite a whole lot of time on Google searching and rejecting things. You cannot imagine the thousands of YouTube videos that are poetic and that are just juxtaposition of images and sounds and stuff. So it takes time to curate these examples, but that guy, Jason Nelson, I think, presents a very interesting object. Do you know him?
I've never heard of Jason Nelson.
Okay, a nervous system. Then it starts. Yeah, but it goes on forever, and you can scroll, and then it zooms in, and it's another series of images, and maybe I went a little bit too fast for our system.
Sort of reminded of Prezi, you know that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And what
The scale is
very interesting, it's that endless frame, a frame without any borders, and it continues forever, and it's in 3 dimensions because you can scroll in up, down, and left, right, and zoom in and zoom out.
Right.
So there's a really an interesting aspect about space in here.
Does the sound change according to anything, or does it
No, it's
stay
just
the same tempo?
stays the same. So that's, I think,
it's a little weak in the sound department.
huh?
Well, you know,
Yeah.
pretty much like a, you know, sonar or something.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of examples from here, from this guy.
I had a request to work on something that this reminds me of a little bit, which was a Tibetan bell, but to listen to it really closely, and then make something really wild out of the really minute variations as it decayed.
Yeah.
Like something go blah blah blah, you know, like blow that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that.
Yeah. I think it's cool examples here. Another one, it's in Portuguese, but the idea is really interesting. So that one, it's a generative poem that changes.
Maybe we should get a WordPress site where we can share this stuff or something.
A what?
A WordPress site where we could,
Yeah,
if we find something, we can share it.
exactly, and collect examples and share. Yeah.
I mean, there's Top Lap, which is for laptop improvisation, but it's like that. It's like a community.
Deformadas pelas compras. É mínimo equilíbrio à tona da escuridão. Quebram-se os ovos.
Very similar to the work you did with the sonnets, where when you click a word, it's transformed.
Desperta a
Yeah, much more elegant, but yeah.
Same idea.
Yeah.
Criar, cruel. Destas cultivos que não esqueço. Deformadas pelas compras. Instala mecanismos, celebrando o princípio da máquina, a tudo dando a corrente de vida. Espalham-se as gemas amarelas viscosas dos ovos quebrados. Que fazer a quem pernoita pelas entradas de bancos? Tudo poder e ser uma outra forma. E uma expressão há muito não usada, ressurge incerta. A porta abre para fora, fechando dentro, dissolve os corpos apaixonados. Ser mim outro, canto moderno, ilusão espelho. E uma expressão há muito não
This
usada.
one has two versions. There's a horizontal scrolling and a
Tudo
vertical
poder e ser
scrolling.
uma outra forma. Não serei quem regressa ao real. Junto a isto, no lugar daquele que oferece.
Which one?
That was an at symbol.
Yeah. And it allows you to send.
Textura a ceia.
Can you add words?
Texto a ceia.
No, but you can go to a page where
Animais devoram os seus.
you can.
Agora, tudo pesa
There's
do
the
vocabulário,
poem
vivência do outro.
available for you as a text.
A viagem nascida da
Right.
cobiça da inveja, vontade de ser mesmo noutro lugar, traduz-se nesse vaso sua breve compreensão molecular. É impossível a ilusão serena de que o mundo, junto a isto, o lugar daquele que oferece. Ao invés.
I think this also is a good example of
É mínimo
Really
equilíbrio à tona da escuridão.
synthesis of media.
Crepúsculos são
It creates
réplicas
really a
de
whole
momento.
that
Não sabe que a morte o atrai.
Well, the sound
Quebram-se
certainly
os
captures
ovos.
more of what's going on. Well, I don't know.
Sua
That's a
falta.
beeping thing kind of
Criando esse polo.
cellular
A
quality.
ilusão do ritmo
Yeah.
ao som
Is
do
that calendar
ruído.
at the bottom?
Voz que berra contra a era que erra guerra, aberração
Mhm.
e abandona. Tudo assim fala a
Just the
ruptura.
months in
Polir,
Portuguese.
Yeah.
polir, ir, sair, o som do abandono.
I don't know Portuguese.
Lançam-se vertiginosamente pelo desconhecido.
No, it's not.
seguras de um destino.
It's not the months in a day.
no, it's
tremor
not.
nas entranhas, que a vida
It's words,
é
and I
impossível
think
a
it's the
ilusão
words
serena.
used in the
O
poem
mundo
and maybe indicated, yeah, and indexed, yeah.
e uma expressão há muito não
Yeah.
usada, ressurge incerta.
Well, this is like post-pound.
Profetas
in a way.
roubados,
It
usados
is,
a
yeah.
cegar
Mm.
na terra,
Compost have this
fugitivo
kind of
e
trickery.
vagabundo
Yeah.
na terra, sombra no sacrifício. Eu bosco uma cidade irregular, a ilusão do
I don't
ritmo
know
ao
how
som
long
do
it
ruído. Não
lasts.
sabe que a morte o atrai.
I have a feeling it does in the end.
Yeah, you can probably assume that.
O ovo de tudo recebendo, não serei quem
Might
regressa ao
repeat, but I
real.
bet if
So-
we repeat, we won't
Yeah.
Diz-se,
But that's from
se o
a,
corpo marca,
I think probably the most interesting resource for digital poetry, which is collection.eliterature.org. Yeah.
Have you looked on turbulence.org? I mean, I think there's some things on there that might.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have another one to show you. This one,
Wait, should I tell them to shut their door?
the gamers. Yeah.
Okay. Something's got to stop. Open the jars.
It's interactive. That's it. So very short linear form.
Yeah, yeah.
It's nice.
But also I think a strong synthesis between the text, the sounds, and the images and their movement, and something really, which is really a form that it's definitely not like a video poetry, but really.
Now, earlier you cautioned against just a bunch of juxtapositions.
Yes.
What is it about this one that to you makes it different than just a mere juxtaposition?
Well, that's the right question.
Yeah.
and
I
and
see the same
and,
thing.
and that's what we need to be trying to establish
Yeah.
is, okay, what kind of criteria are we using to identify when there's true synthesis of media and not just juxtaposition.
I like
I think that one of these criteria could be maybe when something is illustrating or interpreting in the wrong way. Like, okay,
Well, this is the hope we have for the multimodal on the data side, to try to, if you use a sound, it's not just mimicking something you're seeing, but it's adding information.
exactly, it's adding.
Yeah.
And maybe it addresses probably the specificity of each media that is used, and really trying to, in each media, try to look for that conflicting relationship with time, space, and language and their representations, I think. And it's not just showing, just using an image to show, but using an image to question the visibility of what you want to present, and using a sound also to question the audibility of what's going on.
And this is, for me, where those universal semiotic temporal object thing
Yeah,
from the MIM kind of makes sense.
exactly. And also, yeah, and what's also interesting with this kind of work is that there's freedom in your association between the different media. And it's not, everything is not set, so the sound that you hear is not the sound of the scene that's going on, and the image is not the illustration of what you have in the text. So there's not that obvious and locked relationship and
Yeah, La
meaning.
Jetée is full of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Full of things that are mainly evocative, much more than throwing at yourself something. Okay, it's a sunset, and you see a sunset. You say, "Oh, that's great. So what else?" Here you're left with much more freedom and interpretation, and I think that in this sense, it's interactive. because it really allows, and it exists only as an object, as an artistic object. It exists only within the synthesis that you yourself are performing. It does not exist in a locked way as a video, and a YouTube video you can watch it 3 times and it's 3 times the same thing. Here, this one, you will be able to make different synthesis of the experience of these different media put together. I think that's also a series of criteria that are just but relative, but
I think Cocteau was doing this. You know, in I forget the name of the poet. I forget the name of the. You know what I'm talking about?
Which one? The big one?
Yeah.
Pour en finir avec le jugement de Dieu?
Yeah.
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 I mean, there's all these sort of. They seemed serialist at the time, but I think he was getting at something more like this.
Yes, very much. And that's really an excellent reference, because when I was thinking of poetic film, the first example I had was the Seashell and the Clergyman by Antonio
right.
Artaud,
Yeah.
which is really a series of 3 images, and the idea, and without set connections, and really a great openness to everyone's interpretation. And
So there is an aspect of surrealism to that dissociation, but maybe that's because the unconscious tries to make connections.
to make exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
And whether the artist is in control of that or not is like sort of not something you can determine.
Well,
Well, you never know the background of who's experiencing it, you know.
exactly, and you never know, and you do not want to know it. So, for example, if we were to look back at this one and to say, okay, why do I have this image together with that text?
Right.
We do not want to know the intention of the artist. I picked this image because
Yeah.
do not care about that. And so there's that openness that we want to preserve at the same
Well,
time.
and you were successful with that, with your piece, with the Bachelard text.
Yeah,
Because the associations, they weren't exactly random, but it was based on the inflection. So
yes,
the vector was not
Yeah.
conscious.
exactly. The vector was not just the meaning of the
Yeah.
words,
Yeah.
but other elements of the sound of the words.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. How do I get that?
Did you guys all see that piece of Ernest? The one where you read. Well, first you walk into a thing and it had noise canceling as you walked into the place, so suddenly the sound of the gallery dropped. And then there was a book and you read from it, and it was about dreams. And I'm probably butchering the explanation here, but yeah. I knew the mechanics of it. And there was a PD patch that was listening to the inflection of your voice, and it created a video out of separate video elements based on how you read the line of poetry.
Yeah.
And so that's just to explain, because I said that, and I'm sure you guys didn't know what I was talking about if you didn't know the piece.
Yeah. And here I'm just showing this because it's an interesting set of resources. It's Born magazine, not porn, but Born magazine.org. And I love the way the works of art are organized by experience.
Oh.
So you have see, touch, hear, and voice. I love the way it's presented. So there's tons of, but unfortunately it stops in 2011. So let's see, touch, what we have. I saw this one, designing a bird from memory, and just to lead into the blackbird.
Yeah.
And the interactivity is minimal. It's only to go to the next stanza. Hello, please come in.
So with these types of experiences, I guess besides like the sound and the video aspect of it, I'm trying to figure out how different it actually is than something like Marshall McLuhan's The Medium as the Message,
Mm-hmm.
or something like Douglas Copeland's newer stuff where it's like image and text in a book. I mean, I understand that like these are video interactive experiences, but in a book, you know, all you're doing here is you're turning the page, and I'm turning the page
Oh yeah,
when I'm reading
exactly.
the book.
Yeah.
And there's video and sound that like add to the experience.
Mm-hmm.
But like in this one, is it meaningful to add video and sounds? Like, would this work just as that image in a book? Like, does the bird and the sound?
Does the movement of the bird add something to it?
Yeah.
And the sound?
I mean, I think it does, obviously, but I guess where I'm understanding this, where's the significance of this being a video animation compared to being a like linear novel?
Well, I could give the silly answer. It's cheaper to publish
Yeah.
here than in a book.
Yeah.
And it's a convenient way of publishing
Yeah.
poetry
Mhm.
because it's free and it makes sense to use that to publish something else than just text and still images. So it's also a way to me, I see, to appropriate that publishing space of internet with objects that are not that common, I would say.
I would agree with you that it's a difficult thing to implement because you can have this kind of cheap effect with it,
Mhm.
where it can almost be a gimmick. Like something that I noticed with this piece, though, is that your eye wants to follow the bird, and that disrupts your reading patterns.
Mhm.
And that being a significant
Yeah, that's the cool
use
thing
of the
about it.
motion, in that it restructures how you want to read the piece because
Exactly.
you want to track that bird.
Yeah.
See, that's what I think the first one we saw with the scrolling,
Yeah.
I think that is probably the much better way to implement something like this because it's within the frame of the screen. And with
yeah,
this,
the first
it's,
one, nervous system.
yeah, the nervous system, how it's implemented, it actually becomes part of the experience of being on the internet.
Mhm.
Well, this one, it's a small frame and it kind of looks
Right,
like it's on,
discrete.
yeah, it's on the internet for convenience, less so than as like a medium, where this could be like an interactive DVD or something. And I think this would probably work better as something like an interactive DVD or a full screen application that you click instead of a small frame on the internet. It's just so tiny on the internet, then it's got the gray outlines.
When was this made, do you know?
Well,
I have no idea.
Probably,
2008.
yeah, 2008, 2009.
I mean, you have to also factor in that in 2008 we didn't have the types of programming technologies that we have now. So filling the screen was not as easy to do.
Well, yeah, I
containing
mean-
it was just like I understand why this is
Uh-huh.
formatted this way in the browser.
Well, I do too, and I understand all the limitations, and I get that. I'm just talking about like as an actual experience for us, looking at making something now.
I
actually like this because it forces you to spend time with each frame. And I think with poetry or with writing in general, it's not something that you just run through. It's something that you look at and you go over. And to me, this kind of forces, or at least me, it forces me to do that. And yes, there's the bird that I'm following, but I'll stay with the text a bit longer too.
Yeah, and I think I like also the idea of sequentializing the reading and implying pauses between each stanza,
Yeah.
because you need to readjust and look for the little sign for the next. So that, to me, creates something interesting in the flow of the experience that could probably exist also with the book. But then there's that element that you described, that the reading is distracted by the moving bird, and I love that idea of the conflicting media, something that keeps you from reading that well.
But even coming back to the book with even newer technologies, we're getting like electronic papers and stuff, so you could actually publish a book with videos inside the book. That's flexible papers and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, they have flexible paper, flexible screens. Yeah. And this is not at the moment are feasible, like consequently, but as a medium, there's something about just like even any experience, and it's like look at a lot of internet art, just any experience on the internet, like you are on your computer, you're on your browser. Not being distracted is one of the hardest things, at least for me.
Yeah.
So I think the idea of it being physically outside of the browser space would be interesting to get something like this.
Well, yeah, I have that problem with gaming in general. Let's look at the aquarium for the rest of our lives,
And I don't know how long it is, but
does it give you more than one option for direction besides backwards? Like, can you choose between like 3 paths?
no.
No.
So I guess this is the end, and now I go backward. Yeah.
Yeah. It is a blackbird, so.
It is, yeah, and you see how clever I was, like to select the last example to
Yes.
allow us to go back to on the
Okay.
blackbird.
One
So
thing
no, that website is nice because there's tons of examples of digital poetry, and from that time, yeah. The bad thing is that everything stops in 2011, and
it reminds me of and I forget the name of it. There was a QuickTime VR.
oh yeah,
Remember that one? That was a magazine that was QuickTime VR.
uh-huh.
It was the first sort of virtual reality-ish thing I ever experienced, because it was like that same Prezi thing where the reality kept opening up, and you suddenly were in a room, and then you'd go to some part of the room and it would open up. It reminds me of walking through Venice, where you go through these alleyways and all of a sudden you're in this plaza, and you're on a canal, and it's, you never know. Scale doesn't seem to work quite the same.
Yeah.
That opening of scale, goes back to those people, their video about the Earth. Oh, what's his name? Furniture designer, him and his wife.
Eames.
Charles
Eames.
Eames.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Powers of 10.
Powers of 10 video
Mm-hmm.
that they made in the 60s,
Yeah.
70s, yeah. It's,
Yeah.
Well, I got a new toy that I thought might be interesting. Let me go grab it.
Yeah, and also what I need to say is that I will install a copy of Director here, because that was the
Yeah,
tool
that
that
was
we
the
were
tool.
all using
Yeah.
until last week. And that's also a good idea to look at the tool, how it's done, and that allows you to understand some aspects of electronic poetry even today, because the tool has influenced us really a whole lot. And even the metaphors used in the interface, really you can measure the influence on the works of art that you could generate. So I will install my copy of the Actor 12.
That's better. I got about as far as 8 before I let it go.
Yeah, and it became more and more difficult
Yes.
to update and get a license and everything. Yeah, exactly. So so we have the project of going into the translation of a poem, and we're looking at the 13 ways of looking at a blackbird. And we were looking at the very last one, the number 13, that says, "It was evening all afternoon, it was snowing, and it was going to snow. The blackbird sat in the cedar limb." And we were assigning ourselves the goal of, okay, let's try to translate that into another object. And first translate that into just one image, because the idea was that translating is also intimately connected to poetry because of that conflict between the meaning and the language itself. And so starting with translating could be a good way to tackle that kind of conflictual relationship with language. What is that? That's your cheap...
It's my phone. But,
This is our phone.
let's see. Unknown human detected. So there's a little cursor and you move it to if you want to go on to the next thing.
Okay.
You might need to take off your glasses.
Okay. All right.
It's such a strange and alienating technology.
Uh-huh.
We got my
Yeah,
dad one
it
of
is.
those for Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it reminds
I've
me
had
of
several, but
that,
I've finally gotten to the point where there's a
that
remote and-
Wim Wenders film,
Wings of Desire.
Until the End of the World.
Oh, yeah,
Where
right.
they are entirely absorbed into watching the dreams of the others,
Yeah.
someone else's dreams, and they are like this.
This is like this journey through. It's kind of like a video game because you have to look at the neurons you want to kill, but you're inside of a brain on a kind of a roller coaster, which sort of is close to one of the levels we're working on for this.
No, that
wow.
sounds like
Yeah.
Roger's project. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Vina.
Well, I wouldn't call it Roger's project.
Well, I'm sorry. I just sorry.
Since he's written very little code.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess Vina wrote the code, didn't she? No?
Yeah, that's...
There were other people involved.
Okay.
Uh,
Well, those are
In
people that I
Roger's
know that
project.
are working on it.
Yeah, well, one would be me. for
Oh,
example.
you. Well, I thought you were just writing the music.
Okay.
Just that. Just no biggie.
well,
No, it's not the background track. It's sort of tied in. Kind
music is code.
Well, at least it's qualifying as music. That's something.
Yeah.
I think I just got a phone call.
Ah.
Maybe not. Maybe the music sounds like my weird ringtone.
It's different. It's so much smaller than my Rift.
Yeah.
And my Rift has wires on it because it only has rotational tracking and not. Does it have positional tracking?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, your phone does. I mean, that's what's so interesting.
That's-
That's why
yeah.
I find this technology so interesting.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's like they should make some kind of iPad here
Uh-huh.
that is not a phone. I mean, you know, it's like
Mhm.
I'd sort of like to just have something. It would be cheaper, right?
Yeah,
Not have all
uh-huh.
the 3GS stuff.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And
Is that what an iPod is now?
yeah, I guess so. Yeah. There must be an Android equivalent. Maybe a very small Android tablet
Yes.
that's the size of a Samsung S5 or whatever.
There's
Mhm.
some.
But there's something about this technology that fits with this, in my opinion.
Okay.
Where there's
uh-huh.
a more a way of going into the experience a little bit more than. I mean, I'm just really against the aquarium, frankly.
Well,
This
these
is so
also-
even more confining somehow. But
Well, and you're also constricting your space with these. You're building the space as opposed to it just being there. I just remember some of the articles we read from interdisciplinary last semester about building 3D space.
This is my
Uh-huh.
first time
Maybe
ever
he
wearing
knows
Yeah.
about that.
anything like this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, good.
So,
Well, there
if
we
I get
go.
You might want to
Busy.
put 2 feet on the floor.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
My now
Don't
35-year-old,
stand up
when my
immediately
now
after taking it
35-year-old
off.
was 8, we were at Ames Research, and 2 of the guys in the hub were working with Scott Fisher, who now runs the USC thing. And they had this like
Oh.
motorcycle helmet with vector graphics, and it was like inside of it. You know, it was like it was VR, but it was like 1980.
Yeah,
Let's see, it was 8, so 1988.
yeah. Wow.
I had
Yeah.
a virtual boy.
Well, he's 35 now, so but that's part of his
Yeah.
that and his like long conversation with John Cage. He had sort of interesting childhood.
You can spin around.
I looked behind me. There was
Something very strange to space.
neat.
What was that thing that Foucault said in a talk towards the end of his life about heterotopic reality?
Yeah.
I always think about that all the time. It's like when you're on the phone, you're not where you are, and
Yeah.
you're not where the other person is. You're in this
Mhm.
other place. You know?
It's like
This is
where
sort
the
of like
every
as soon as
direction
Frank
is
puts that on.
forward.
You're,
It is
you're
not
elsewhere.
3D space. It's in the same way.
Yeah.
Every direction
well,
is no matter where you're looking,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
forward. Like because you have no point. You don't have anything as a point of reference.
Oh, VR.
Well,
Yeah.
you don't have any sound as a point of reference.
So
and
you
that's,
see
that
how-
would make the huge difference.
My relationship to technology
Yeah.
says VR has stopped.
Oh, really? As soon as you turn it on?
Yeah.
I did that on purpose.
What did you say there was a conflict?
Well, anyway, this is
between
my new
being in two
thing I'm
different strings
goofing
of
with.
time at the same time.
Well, yes, and that's to me,
New old.
yeah,
I mean,
what's
it's
one of
probably
the
my third
problems with
cardboard
this
related
is
thing.
Yeah, I got my first one.
the split
I had a lot of
between
fun with it.
two
It kills the
Mhm.
battery. Like you can only do it for like
well
20
two
minutes before your phone
streams
says
of
"Stop."
attention.
Yeah.
And I think
Right.
that's one of the main problems. Can attention and intention be split
Yeah.
in two streams? And to me, the answer is no.
Attention and intention.
Yeah, well, it's only unidirectional, and intention, you can only pay attention to just one thing, one stream at a time. Your temporal consciousness is not, you cannot divide it. And that's what
It's difficult to divide it. I wouldn't say cannot. I mean, I think, like when you're driving and talking on the phone, for example.
or when you're listening to polyphonic music.
Yeah, right. Supposedly, a
We-
trained musician can follow 6 lines, but a line is different than driving and talking on the phone are really distinct.
Yeah,
things.
but then to me that's one unique stream of attention to the, and that's a synthesis of attention,
Right, right.
and it's unique, and there's only one, and it's not something split, just like the case of
Yeah, the
virtual
act
reality.
is driving
Yeah.
the car while talking on the phone.
Yeah.
It's one thing, yeah.
Yeah, and while you do that, your attention in fact switches
Yeah. I
between
would not
different
say it's a
streams of attention.
Because people aren't really
Perfect
that good at it
combination of
either.
either of those.
That's
Yeah,
a
well,
combination.
that's
Far
sure.
fewer
You
accidents.
should just look at my car now.
Horrible combination.
No. That's actually the Dallas Independent School District, but that's another story.
And what I like with the idea of digital poetry
I
is
scraped the whole side of my car.
it
Gonna take it
implies
for
the
granted.
fact that we can use digital technologies with that ideal of really supporting attention. And it's really, to me, that's what art should be doing, is really revealing the unicity of attention, taking care to something, paying attention to something. And it's something that you do not divide. And that's what's interesting when we're looking at these examples, is the aspect of unification and the feel of your own stream of consciousness and of the temporality of your own consciousness. And I think, to me, that's what makes it for the artistic experience, is when the encounter with the work of art really makes you feel that temporality of your consciousness within the dialogue and the interaction with the work of art. It's something suddenly experience something about time and about your own temporality that you do not experience in everyday's life, except if you're doing meditation or something like this. And when you started with Jodorowsky saying that art has to do something to
Right.
people.
I love that. Luckily, I'd seen that before because I walked in.
If not, it's
What a character!
yeah. What?
I wish they'd let him make Dune. Let's do
Passion.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would've been a good movie.
And what I'm looking for with the synthetic poetry lab is making small forms meant to receive attention.
This reminds me of, I just listened to a podcast with Doug Repetto, who's the guy who started Dorkbot,
Mm-hmm.
and he said this thing that I keep mulling around, and sort of related, and that is that art is on some level useless, and that there's no reason to make things that you are projecting are going to like have some sort of impact on your own life and make you, you know, like Art Star or whatever.
Yeah.
You should just accept the fact that what you're doing is useless, but you're still compelled to make this creative act.
Yeah.
You know, to get back to Duchamp, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think I'm articulating it very well, but it's somehow sticking in my craw. You know, like it's useless, and I shouldn't be attached, but I should still do these things. You know,
Yeah.
because it isn't my intent to become Salvador Dali or something. I mean, it's like, or
Well, yeah, because
John Lennon or whatever.
yeah,
You know, it's like your
Yes.
intent is that you just have this urge to be creative, and then you make these objects, and
yeah,
then if you
Mm.
want to get into marketing, I guess you could become famous. But
yeah. No, I was
that's a whole other
when
thing.
you were saying this, I was thinking of Philip Stark.
Oh,
He said about design. He said the goal is not to make objects that people would love, but to make objects that would love people.
oh, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, it sounds a little harsh just saying useless,
Yeah,
but he meant useless in the sense that don't be so. That's why he called it Dorkbot. He got a lot of pushback for calling it Dorkbot because it wasn't dignified and academically.
yeah,
Blah, blah, blah. You're
Mhm.
at Columbia, you know. You should call it making great stuff or
Mhm,
something.
mhm.
And he really prefers the Dorkbot because it opened up the gates for people that have the urge to go ahead and
Yeah,
just show their little thing that flashes an LED when you walk in the
Mm.
room or whatever. You know, it's like
yeah. But what I love with the idea of digital poetry is the
Yeah, I'm getting
modesty
off
of the
topic.
scope of things.
Um,
Meaning we're not looking at making big, magnificent things, but only small objects that would displace people's attention and replace it into one unique experience, and that's it, and it's gone, and it's 25 seconds or 10, or it's something that has just that very
yeah,
simple.
yeah. I guess that's why I
potential.
cued on that.
Yeah,
Also, it's also it's small in scope, and it's also bound to disappear as technology changes too, right? It's bound. It's
That
like
happens. yeah.
inherently sort of going to become impossible to play unless you archive it very carefully.
We talked about that last
Yeah,
week.
we
Yeah.
talked about
Yeah.
that, about the
Yeah.
difficulty of preserving that
Mhm.
kind of experiment. And what we're left with is, unplayable CD-ROMs.
Right. Zip drives. I have zip drives.
Yeah,
Jazz
I've just
drives.
thrown
I
out
have
this
jazz
summer.
drives.
Oh my God,
I have
my
zip
jazz
drives.
drives.
I have,
Yeah.
Yep.
I have what was before that? Syntac or something like that. I have those.
Well, my group, the
Why do I
Hub,
have
Three and
those?
quarters, you're 5.5.
my group, the Hub, started out on 6502 single board computers using 300 baud modems,
Mhm.
and we just on the 13th, I'm playing a concert at Mills of an old piece called Simple Degradation that we did on that sim, and we had to like
Mhm.
rebuild the whole
The
piece
whole-
from scratch,
yeah,
you know, because it was only a 256K buffer,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, so
yeah,
that ends up being just like a little table in PD,
yeah,
but that's all the memory we had to work
Mhm.
from,
yeah.
you know. And then there was a middle MIDI based version of the hub, and now we use OSC. So that there have been three like complete, you
yeah.
know, just you know, we just can't do those old pieces that way. We have to sort of emulate them somehow.
Yeah, but I think that's interesting, the idea of ephemeral aspect of this, and the fact that it's it's an art of one moment over history, and it's meant to go away, but it's meant also at the same time to continue as a stream of expression. And what's interesting is that now we're looking back onto these objects and projecting new ones. And that's, to me, the history of poetry. It's always something on the verge of disappearing.
And yet Ovid remains.
and it's still there, and it's always that little stream of expression that has always existed, but that's always threatened by something else, by new genres, new forms of expressions, new ways of publishing and stuff like this, but it's still persisting. It's persistent. That's the idea. So how do we go by doing? And is it a good idea to do? I think yes, because poetry implies the making and not just the talking. So the making, and how do we make collectively? And that's the difficulty.
Well, this is why I like PD and that stuff so much. I mean, that's the current like toolkit for me.
Yeah.
And processing a lot of people like.
Yeah.
I've been using Max a lot, which is
Max.
basically PD.
Yeah. PD with a lot of good help files.
Yeah, that's why I use it. And I get the pseudo discount.
Yeah.
What is PD?
Pure data extended. No, so PD dash extended. Just Google that and or Coco.go or whatever it is. If you don't want to help me, Google just past Apple is the most what's the right word? Valuable company on earth.
Alphabet.
Yeah, I guess Alphabet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so they can use E and actually have an evil company.
Yeah.
Their G division can be all good. Anyway, okay, so how do we go about this? So we have this representation that we want to do.
Yeah, so for example, if we take these, maybe I can just start writing down that poem, or maybe just looking at it because I'm lazy.
It's there.
Okay. And because we're lazy, we're taking just this one. Yes, copy. Now I will copy that into what? Is there a word somewhere? Okay.
We don't have Word on my computer.
Okay, good. So let's use whatever.
A Sublime on there? Probably not.
Yeah, let's use that. Notes.
Bigger. Command plus.
Okay, that's where we start from. So I said what was interesting me when I was looking at this, it's the question of representation of time. which is my obsession,
Yeah.
and the use of the progressive tense as opposed to the perfect tense, and what that creates. So obviously the progressive tense gives you that sense of temporal dimension that is what we call a state, which is something that that lasts. And the perfect tense is the accomplishment of an action, which is an instant. And what I like is the contrast, and obviously, and it's even strongly manifested with the perfect tense being expressed by only 3 letters, where the progressive tense uses much more letters, so it takes more space, and it relates obviously much more to the dimension of space than to the dimension of time itself. And so that's the where I start from.
Well, I would propose to try, because I'm experimenting with this anyway, to use this 2 big ears PD object that I'm messing with
Okay.
and move the lines in space, speaking simultaneously but receding and coming closer at different times.
Okay. Or we could, yeah. Let me do one thing. I will also download the director, and we can start playing with this.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because it's fun. It's archaeology of
About going back in time.
yeah. Start your trial. Okay.
But it still exists, huh? Wow.
Yeah, it still
Yeah.
So is
exists.
there like a HTML5 converter in it? No.
Like, is anybody using it? Who's using it?
I am.
We are.
Yes, but you're
Oh.
using it subversively. Who's using it?
Now I'm using it when I have time.
Two big ears.
I restore old works of art with my new one.
Wow.
And
I'm
so-
trying to work on the collection of Art Intact and trying to repurpose the old versions of Art Intact from 1996 into
Wow.
something playable
This
today.
is that same problem.
Yeah, that is the same problem. I'm
Yeah.
impressed
Let's
that
see.
you're taking that on. That's
Let's
a big
see.
project.
Action script too.
Yeah, I forgot my password, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm all for biometric. Action script 2.
Yeah. Reset your password. Sure.
Converting your flash to HTML5. Swiffy. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Do you know about this, Frank? I mean, then you'll have to
No.
go from HTML5 to whatever else.
Yeah.
But converting action script 3 FLAs to HTML5.
HTML5 is relatively the fast right now.
Yeah,
Given that
right now it
online,
is,
yeah.
but ActionScript was, so. Shit happens. At least,
H- HTML is at least like open, unlike ActionScript and all the Adobe stuff.
Yeah.
So it's probably not going anywhere.
Is it part of any of the CS packages?
No.
No, it's separate. Okay.
I have one here.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's yeah.
I have CS.
If you have the CS Cloud, if you have like the
I
what's
don't
it
have
called?
cloud. I have CS5.
Okay. Anyway, I will do that. So with the first idea is if we translate that into just one image, and we say that's the constraint, the first constraint,
Oh, I don't even have
because
that.
poetry I think works also with constraints.
Mm-hmm.
If you do not have constraints, you do not have poetry. So let's say we have just one image, And then if we add to the fact that the image should not be illustrative, we do not want to have a snowy landscape with a blackbird sitting.
On a cedar branch. And then the snow goes away suddenly, and then it comes back. No more. Damn it, that's what I was going to do. Frank?
So, so what would that image look like?
What?
Just that
Oh,
one
I can
image.
control my
I'm
phone.
pulling up the poem.
That's cool.
And it's the
So the first line, it was evening all afternoon, just implies that it was snowing and therefore it was a bit gloomy out. But when I read that, what I saw was kind of a struggle between, I don't want to say shade, but night and light and dark. And so how could you use that as a backdrop, showing tension between light and dark? That's something that popped into my head. But, like you said, you don't want that to be literal, so how could...
but that's true. There are obvious oppositions between the black and the white. That's one big opposition between the progressive tense and the perfect. So white being associated to the progressive tense and to the lasting things, and black being associated to the strictly limited over time ones.
I did make an image.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it was my first time to use 3D in Photoshop, so I just played around with it. But I was just kind of playing.
Okay.
So it's kind of what I came up with. So I was thinking the black and the white.
Yeah.
I used the black and the white too. That's the only. There was no other colors. So.
Another one. We need a series. I think we need to have several images, and we need for each of them to develop what kind of things are we addressing in it. Because one will not be enough. I had thought, okay, very simply, the first one being just all white and then a little black dot, which is highly illustrative.
Yeah.
So that we do not want to do that. We want to go further. And where is that further? In what direction is it? That's my
It's a matter of abstraction in some ways, but I think having only just seen the poem like minutes ago.
Yeah.
I also would take a sort of a translation process, but I would first kind of translate in language before going to an image. And this stanza, I guess, reminds me of actually looking at animals like birds or squirrels or outdoor animals in the cold, and having the thought of how amazing it is that they're okay. You know, that they're like just okay. In contrast to my human experience, which is completely full of anxiety and would be so anxious to be sitting in the cold like that. And so I would, if I were to try to make an image, it would be about the tension between having anxiety kind of in the natural world. But also that's a very personal filter, right?
But it's not, I feel something quite similar when I think about the cold and animals, and it feels to me that it always has that effect of making them more solid and hard. Like to me, birds are transformed into little stones that jump from one thing to another, and they lose their softness in the cold. They become really hard objects.
Reminds me of a poem from a movie. I think it was a W.H. Auden. We talked to you about this last time. So, I never saw a wild thing sorry for itself. A bird will fall frozen dead from a bough without ever having felt sorry for itself.
talk about the blackbird a little bit later. Next stanza.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been doing these emoji paintings, like the ones you can text to the iPhone with GIF, and two that are really an interesting pairing for this that I just came up with are the sun and the star, because the stars in some ways representative of night and the sun of day, and yet they're both stars and they're both light emitting objects, and yet we think of light and dark as associated with each of those.
That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, like two completely light objects, and yet they suggest totally different experiences of light, and they are literally the same thing. But yeah, that's as far as I've gotten. But that pairing mixed with something else.
That's really nice.
I almost feel like I feel this like blurring, this in the afternoon, between the afternoon and evening, that contemplation period, where you start to lose, the faculty of vision because of you losing the light, and things start to blur a little, and you move into darkness. And so I just feel like maybe there's more gray, or there is some element of gray, between the two poles, the binary poles of black and white.
And I think you got it what I was trying to express earlier about the tension between black and white. It's not a hard line, but maybe it's a blurring one into the other.
This blurriness.
Yeah.
Well, snow is gray, and if the sky is gray, snow doesn't.
The
look-
light's reflected.
Yeah, the light's very reflective. It looks gray until like a spark of sun comes through, but it's usually just gray. If it's just gray outside, I mean, just as a physical, like I used to ski a lot in Seattle, and it's just gray when you're skiing most of the time. Like it's not, you don't know when it switches. You see when the sun goes down because it's darker gray, but like it can be all day. You could be out all day and you can't, it's just gray all day from the morning to the evening. And then the sun finally, well, the sun never comes through sometimes, but most of the time it doesn't. But
Well, I'm happy to be from a region where you do not get to see snow. It's impressive.
Well, we'll get it in April or May, I'm sure. We haven't reached our winter
Well,
peak
yeah.
yet.
it got
The
cold
way it's
today.
going, it might happen in August, actually.
Yeah.
The way things are going. Anyway,
So,
yeah.
and I think that's a good idea to translate it back into your own words, and then from these words try to go back to an image.
Or you could do one of my favorite word things is to take it and have Google translate it into French,
So,
and then have Google translate the French into
So-
Italian.
so you see
The
how
Italian into Google, translate it into German, and then translate it from German back to English, and then use that.
so my translation would be, you know what would be my translation is I had been drinking all afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
No, good, go.
And I was drunk. And the last bottle was empty, sitting on the kitchen floor.
I love it. I love it.
That's my translation of that.
Or
Your experience.
I'm reminded of that kind of, well, at least at my house, a party game, which is the 6-word novel. So turn it into a 6-word thing.
Oh.
Yeah, like the famous one is Ernest Hemingway's 6-word novel was Baby Shoes for Sale, Never
Yeah.
Worn.
Yeah.
So blackbird,
Mm-hmm.
no snow, snow. Oh, I can't do the evening day
Yeah.
thing. But anyway,
That one is terrible.
Something. Dead. That's
Well, yeah, because obviously
Or
that's
drunk,
there's
yeah.
that idea of death into that.
Yeah, there's something about.
Yeah, but
it's got the
really
feeling of that
something
for some reason.
The
immensely.
coldness, maybe.
There's something immensely sad into this.
Mm.
I cannot. And that's
Well,
something-
the implication is that the voice, or the voice of the poet, is someone who's been sitting there that long,
yeah,
right? They've
Yeah.
been staring at this stupid bird for.
Yeah, but also, okay, my 6 words would be inevitable spring, yet the blackbird still sits.
Mhm.
Because there's
That's
also the implication that, was it 7? I could,
It's
I could reduce, I could edit. I could get it down to 6.
Had a
But I think
haiku
that
problem.
there's like this implication of, you know, spring will come,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
But like we are right
But
now,
we are still.
like, you know, this is the,
Oh, I didn't get
well,
the
it's also
spring thing.
the,
I like that.
the I have so for the group I kind of barged in, so hi everybody.
Oh,
My
hey.
name is
That's good.
Extine. I'm an associate professor in the EMAC program. I just started this year, and I actually have made some digital poetry in my past.
cool.
So part of my creative works include some interactive poetry and digital poetry. So so Frank invited me to join you when
Mhm.
available, and here I am.
Cool. Yeah.
Shoot, I lost my train of thought. But like the implication of spring, not that, which is never really spoken, but I think, you know, like you said, like the poet is sitting. Oh, what I was gonna say is I have twin boys, and they're almost 3, and people always tell me, the days last forever, but the years go by fast, right?
Yeah,
Like,
That's true.
right? Like, so, like, there are some days where I'm like, I can't do this another day. I really can't. Like, I like, need to possibly consider killing myself. Maybe, because I can't imagine doing this for another
Mhm.
however many days, right? But then, like, they're going to be
Twins.
3 this year, and I can't believe they're going to be 3 this year. It feels like they were just born, right? So, so I think some of that is here in this poem, the sort of like sitting with this scene in the coldness that feels like it's going on forever, but the inevitability of change too.
So your experience is the terrible twos of the
Yes.
power of 2.
Yes, and it is to the power of everything. Is
Yeah, yeah, that's what they
exponentially
say, you know.
is- Yes, it's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
10 to the second.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, that's a hopeful. Yeah, there's hope in the thing.
Somewhere. The birds generally represent hope too,
Yeah,
right? Symbolically.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Just like the idea when you stay up all night and the first birds in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
The hail
okay.
warning, yeah.
And it's all together a very beautiful moment, but really extremely sad always. You cannot escape that
Yeah.
painful
Mhm.
realization.
Yeah.
You said escape, and I was reading this. There's a sense of confinement too, because in the snow we don't often see birds flying,
Mm.
Yeah.
and in the snow we ourselves are confined in
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
space. But, so we're not venturing out of the house to
Right.
run errands or whatnot.
So also
That's the experience of being in
another
Texas, I think,
type
more
of
than anything, though.
analysis that
I
we
think you
could
lived in
do of the
Wisconsin.
poem
You'd have
is using the semiotic
There's big
temporal
birds in the snow,
units.
but not little birds.
It's a system
I
of
mean, I'm trying to think of a little bird.
units that we are using in music to describe musical fragments.
No.
And I've been working with colleagues
Because we're a small bird migrant.
to use and apply this system into other forms of expression. So the idea is to concentrate on movements. So the units are, for
Snowbird is
example,
always a word.
so one of them is called crawling, another one is
Mm.
spinning, another one is moving forward, another one is being felt as if you were pulled back,
Mm.
and stuff like that. So there's a set of 19 units, and I've been using that sometimes to analyze poems,
Mm.
and so to pay attention to the reading of them. In fact, that's what I was using in dream architectonics in the interactive work that I did,
Mhm.
is trying to match the readings of the poems to these kind of units. So for example, this one, if we were to analyze it in terms of temporal units, it was
Oh,
was evening or afternoon, and it
yeah.
was
You should bring up that
it was
site. Just to show the,
Yeah,
the
uh-huh.
Fléchier and all the different.
Blackbird sat.
MIM.
It was evening or
Like little
afternoon. Yeah, let's.
Yeah, we're talking. Yeah, we're talking. I'm just talking about birds in the snow, like these little like finch-looking
Oh, little
birds.
finchy things.
Yeah, that's what you usually see. But it looks like bluebirds hang out on the snow too, and red birds. I don't know birds.
Snowbirds.
Snowbirds. That's a resort, which is the
Yeah.
biggest problem.
It's a lifestyle. Let's see.
I never hear anyone say that though. It's usually snow bombs or ski bombs.
Snowbirds are retirees.
Oh, the
That's
retirees.
the
Okay,
first
okay,
thing.
that's right, that's right.
Yes. I have an aunt and uncle who are snowbirds. Self-proclaimed.
Yeah, most of my friends fall more into the ski bum.
Mm-hmm.
Live in vans,
Mm-hmm.
but sleep at the resort all the winter.
Okay, so to me that temporal unit would be this one. So a musical equivalent of my interpretation of that line would be
Yeah.
that semiotic temporal unit, which goes like this. Works well, and here's another example of the same unit.
Diminution.
Yeah, that dispersion of energy and
Right.
rarefaction. These things become
Rarefaction, yeah.
rarefaction.
Yeah.
Very difficult to say.
It is.
Of
There's a
energy and
moment at the
event.
beginning of Alban Berg's music for three pieces for orchestra, does it? It's kind of got that.
Yeah.
Except for then it explodes into this huge thing, but there's
yeah.
like this really high trombone note.
Yeah,
At the top of the trombonist range, but does exactly that. And then
Yeah, and that
explodes.
is based on listening and trying to, for example, what's obvious, what gives energy into, musical energy is it. That really is always a kind of impulse, and it becomes less and less present, and then it echoes back into something that is like a muffled echo of it, which is sat, and it gives the exact same idea that what we have here in this one. And then sat. And at the same time, you have the whole idea of the progressive tense that is
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is sustained.
still sustained.
Yeah. Well, that's why the thing I suggested at first, the things are coming and receding, with that same sense of continuity that's not associated with the semiotic thing, you know.
Mhm. And what I like with the idea of using that system of temporal units is that it's not completely free interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
There's some
Yeah, you have like 17 of them, and that's it.
Yeah,
That's how many,
and then you because somehow you always need to go back to these structural invariants of the form itself that you have. and you have to justify your interpretation in agreement with these structural invariants that you have in the text or in the music or something like this.
Okay, well, I could certainly do an audio thing with this. That's
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
definitely. An image is difficult. So now we could perhaps
We have
do
to
a
get,
system of multiple translations. So going from that musical segment.
Right.
So now how do we represent that musical segment? What kind of image does it do?
Right. It certainly does evoke an image.
Yeah.
I mean, another interesting thing to try is to do that with the Cornell Ornithological Lab would have the blackbird's song, and then you could use PVOC or something to like stretch it for like,
Oh yeah.
what if this thing is 2 minutes long or whatever. I mean, one of my favorite
Yeah,
experiences
that's
that sort of in the
interesting.
zone with this was that it was called Beat 9 Stretch, which was the 24-hour rendering of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Video has this. There's 24-hour Psycho.
Yeah, Douglas. I love that piece. Douglas Gordon. Is that him?
I think so. Yeah.
He's a Norwegian dude, actually.
Oh.
I forget his name, but the Silent American, I think. Eric Zim.
No, Douglas Gordon was Psycho. I think.
I think yeah, he did 24 hours.
Yeah, I don't know who did.
Oh, 24-hour Psycho.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting. What kind of blackbird is it in the poem? It's not that one, is it? Because if you add that little bit of red and yellow, it'll
Yeah.
change the aesthetic.
It's a red-winged blackbird. And he's out in the snow. It's freaking me out.
He looks too happy. He looks warm.
Yeah.
Some other song about a blackbird. It's pretty famous.
Yeah, there is.
I don't play. Hey, Dad, can you play that?
Yeah, there is.
Play that and then play the tape backwards.
Is it that guy?
Maybe it's about Satan.
I can play.
Well,
that.
yeah. Blackbird. Yeah.
Let me go get my guitar.
Is this that guy? The blackbird?
Boat-tailed grackle.
The grackle?
That's a grackle. That's a cowbird. Whoa.
I
This
don't.
is someone's
I was
children.
thinking a raven the whole time. That's just the way my mind goes.
Yeah.
Or a crow or something.
Yeah. A crow. Yeah.
Well, in all these pieces, we did a big piece with we used to have a didgeridoo ensemble. It was a concert about crow-related stuff.
Blackbird in the Snow is a jewelry designer.
No, poor person.
Blackbird in the snow. She comes up.
Good to know.
Blackbird in the snow.
There you go.
Proverbs blackbird.
Little blackbird.
There it is on YouTube.
They're not the
Yeah.
most depressing looking birds in the world, though.
Let it rip. Well, I've heard that one. Concealed carry mistakes. Holy crap. Some woman killed herself. She had like a bra
That's what I've
holster.
Multiple people have been doing that. It's like, okay, Darwin Awards.
You're safe.
Yeah.
At least we are now.
Come on, just because you can carry doesn't mean you should.
Let me see. There's a. But I'm afraid that if I type
It's a pretty bird.
song in YouTube,
You're gonna
Yeah.
get something.
You're gonna get the
get something awful.
Modern.
Well, I've had a
Cultural.
couple of real like classroom-related YouTube looking emergencies.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
image search. Put on headphones one time
Here we go.
and that would be bad.
Ah, okay.
I wonder if Miss Ann did one.
Huh?
I wonder if Miss Ann did a blackbird.
Yeah.
Les soirs. What is that?
Oiseau noir?
Yeah,
Well-
Les soirs. Les chansons des oiseaux, right?
I'm trying to see how that kind of bird would translate in French. Because we do not have that kind of bird over
Right.
there. We have one that's black.
You have
with-
ravens.
We have ravens and another one called merle, but
Right. Dead blackbird in the snow. There we go.
Dead blackbird in the
This is the
snow.
last frame.
But yeah, I also wonder though if the blackbird is just a kind of we talked about the gray, but the blackbird's used more as like a metaphor between the contrast between the snow, the black and the white.
you're wondering if the blackbird is just a bird,
It's just yeah.
bird that's black.
When was that written? That's
Yeah.
it's Stevens.
Beginning
right?
of the 20th century.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would say 19.
What if it had an influence
30.
on Paul McCartney when he was writing that song? Because I mean, the
Uh-huh.
alliteration of it, or something. No, that's the wrong word. But the sort of mythic quality of the blackbird
Mm-hmm.
as a dream image or something.
Yeah.
It works in that song really well.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
take your broken wings and fly. You know,
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, the blackbird is most of the time the one who's announcing death.
Was that
Right.
Roger?
Yeah.
well, at least the
That's-
raven part or crow
Mhm.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's always a very.
There's an oracle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, my son came up with this term apocalypse. And he, my son Nathan, actually. But he, in his same sort of dark space, saying, yeah, there used to be all sorts of birds. No, it's just ravens.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I was like, okay.
Okay. That's a,
Like father, like son, I guess.
That's very
The
clever.
blackbird is also a type of violin. What? A playable rock violin in full sides, made after a Stradivari.
Oh, I see.
It's interesting though. I mean, if you added that
Alright.
back to
Oh,
this
it's
image,
a specific violin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I totally see that now.
to get what?
The hope that she was talking about for the spring.
Oh yeah.
That's
Just
when I
a
heard that, I was like,
violin,
oh,
not
that's hope.
Yeah, but that's yeah. To me, that kind of bird, it's a bird that we have in France, as all birds, particularly active in the spring, and they are silent in the winter.
Hmm.
You do not hear them. Only if there's sun and it's hot, but in the snow it's always. There's no call, no nothing.
Oh, I have to go meet a student. So.
Because we have to hear the wind.
Yeah.
It's the wind's turn.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So okay, I will
Okay.
put
Well, I have to
together.
I'm gonna try to get the two big ears thing to work.
So I'm happy with that. Oops.
Yeah.
Where did I?
Now,
put-
so why did you choose that one? I mean, there are several choices.
That one, yeah, because of the form. That I think with the so when you read and you have it was
Diminishing.
evening or afternoon, and every time the impulse is given by it, but it becomes rare and rare as the poem moves on. It was snowing all afternoon. It was snowing, and it was going to snow, and then it goes away, and then the sat replaces the it. It's
Yeah,
a muffled impulse, just like in this one here. So if we play it.
That's a little like a bird call.
Yeah, and it's also like a little bit like a bird call.
That first thing. That's
And,
just-
and the repetition with it was, and then they progressively end. Yeah. So I would start and try to make an image of that, or there's something I do with my undergraduate students is I play sounds and I ask them to draw as the sound passes,
Right. Yeah.
so that they do not interpret the sound from memory. And what's very interesting is that there's a strong convergence. Like you have always a good 40% of the drawings that are completely similar. And that similarity really is always exemplary of the form of the sound, or one of the acoustic quality of the sound. And the other ones, and that's interesting because to me these drawings, these convergent ones, are the only ones that are not interpretation based upon something that's external to the sound. That's where you have most convergence, when they really represent the sound itself and not the cause of the sound or
Some
something.
idea about the sound.
Yeah, some idea.
Yeah.
So all the subjective divergent interpretations always relate to something external to the sound, where the convergent one always relate to something that really is internal and carried by the sound. That's interesting.
It's more formalist than
Yeah.
structural.
Yeah.
La Merle Noir.
The Merle Noir, yeah.
That's, well, Messiaen did one.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would do it on my phone, but it's
Okay.
better up there.
But you know what? I'm sure he did the Happy Spring one.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I think the only other thing is snow always, whenever it's cold, you can't really smell, because smell is transmitted by heat and stuff. So there's that emptiness of actual the scent of smell. But then he references cedar, which is a very fragrant scent. So
It's also evergreen.
And there's the second one. Oh, there's the first one.
Yeah.
what is it?
It's the blackbird. And he actually did transcribe.
Yeah, he took
the-
sonograms and
Yeah.
this whole,
The whole book of
yeah,
uh,
the piano
Bird
writing is
songs,
particularly. You know, I did a concert. Yvonne Loyal played, and Messiaen was there. It's like the last year of his life.
it's interesting.
So wait, what's going on? He transcribed bird sounds?
Yeah.
Yeah, and applied his
And that's
Yes.
interesting.
des pas dans.
Footsteps in the
Oh, yeah,
snow.
here we go,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that picture too.
Yeah, Debussy. Sorry.
Good old Cloud. He died with the guns of Versailles in the distance. Of colon cancer. That's right. Oh yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. He's the to me the ideal.
Yeah, that's it right there. The
The
interesting thing that Debussy always does is that repetition without repetition.
Yeah,
There's a
mm.
repeated feeling, but it's just always
Mm.
reaching out.
Yeah.
And so the form always takes that quality of not being ABA, but A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good when he takes us somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's a great
Different.
framework.
It's a great piece.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a great piece. Yeah.
He was, I think, really influenced by Satie in that particular one.
Yeah.
Jounis, or what they're called again.
Gnossienne.
Linocene.
Yeah. Definitely. So.
Well, I have a student coming.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you for joining.
Yeah, it's great. I love this.
So, yeah, I will be working on that idea, and maybe I will put my undergraduate students to work on drawing that image of that temporal unit and see what it looks like. And then combining that with the text and maybe and bringing director here so that director, it's a very easy way to put together several media, like a text, a sound, and an image. And within 5 seconds you have your 3 elements together. I do not know any other powerful tool to sketch multimedia objects.
You can do it in Max pretty easily, but it's probably not as easy as Director.
Yeah, yeah,
But you can do all that in Max relatively quickly.
yeah.
I like After Effects.
I do too.
Oh yeah,
It's just
you're right. That's also
use
a very
After
good
Effects.
idea. Yeah,
But
I have a little skill.
Mhm.
Keeping the inner,
yeah.
the
I've
problem with
never
After
thought
Effects would
of
be
that.
the,
Huh?
couldn't add the interactivity.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean after the fact, I guess.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
yeah,
That would be the only problem, because I would have said After Effects too.
Yeah.
yeah,
But you could actually build everything in After.
You could build it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Take it and program it somewhere.
yeah.
Take all the elements out of it.
Mm.
You could probably do it with After Effects and Director nowadays.
Yeah,
because they're
probably so.
integrated.
Right. Because is Director,
It's Adobe.
it's Adobe now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
so
is.
I'm sure they're interchangeable.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that would be a good idea.
I am inclined to make an animated GIF.
Oh, you have the
Yeah,
specialist of that, and you should show your work.
It was interesting. Some of the things you were talking about were the piece I submitted to Athens.
Sure.
Let's see if I can find it. It's a little dark, so just gonna take it as is. But
that's very interesting is animated GIF. They're just a very
Yes.
high.
And I know exactly where you're going.
Cinema-
I love
cinema
those too.
graphs.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm preparing with my wife a work that explores that.
Yeah.
Because I'm fascinated
Yeah.
by this. And it's usually very much used in the fashion
Yes.
environment.
It is.
That's how it started.
It's
Yeah,
very,
that's how
it's
it's
very
done.
cinematic though,
It
isn't
is,
it?
yeah.
It's called cinemagraphs.
Cinemagraphs
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
like that.
The
Cinema GIF?
The subreddit, if you ever get on Reddit,
Oh, yeah.
the subreddit Cinemagraphs is a pretty big resource for that, and they have all the tools of how to make them and stuff.
Okay, I did one in Photoshop.
Cinema.
Cinemagraphs.
Cinemagraphs.
Yeah.
It's not a word I ever say out loud, so
Reminds me of Yvonne's scenography.
These are just for
it would be like this.
cinemagraphs.com.
Yeah.
I would go to the subreddit. It's probably the best resource.
Oh, this is Safari. I don't know how to use this as well. But
Cinemagraphs, Reddit. Okay.
There's some things Reddit's still good. Okay with.
mm,
Huh.
Yeah, so that to me is very close to digital poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be offended if I were to use that to describe your work?
no, I think all of the conceptual ideas that you were describing are exactly the things that I work with. Because all of my work is focused on the relationship between language and media,
Yeah.
and how the image has become text.
Mm-hmm.
Like indexicality, we talked about that before, and that's
Yeah.
something I've been working with, that using words that make you oscillate between reading the text with the image and then moving from the image to the text,
Mm-hmm.
and how all of the connotative stuff that we have moves in both directions, and
Yeah.
it's really unclear which one
Mm-hmm.
happens first.
Yeah.
Um,
And like the reaction GIFs.
yeah,
That's how people
exactly.
reply.
Yeah.
Instead of like actually typing out an
Mhm.
emotion, people will reply with
Mm-hmm.
a video, like a
Right.
GIF from something.
Yeah, that's where I started with a lot of this, because I would do this all the time to my friends, and they'd be like, "You use these so well," and so I was like, "What if I did something a little bit more interesting with that, rather than just
Mm-hmm.
communicating,
Memes.
memes and that kind of stuff?" I also have these emoji
Just
pieces.
as just a more general question: is he about to cut the guy's head off, or is he a barber?
No, he's getting his hair cut,
He's
right?
getting his haircut.
But you are.
No, this is
Yeah.
from one of the
Yeah.
ISIS videos.
No, see, he's not getting his haircut.
Yeah.
It looks like
Oh,
he's
he's
killing
not?
No, he's
No,
about to
no,
get his
no.
head off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
debating between barbershop
Yeah,
and getting his
No.
head
I
off.
thought it
I
was
was
a barbershop.
I was right there too. I couldn't figure it out.
Oh.
Part of it's the distance. If you look at it up close, it's more clear. But it's one of the ISIS videos that they released, which is a little awkward trying to find that on the internet, because I'm probably on
Yes.
Live leak.
a
You are definitely
watch
on
list now.
You absolutely are.
But that's
Yeah.
all
You and
right.
everybody else.
I hope you did
Hi,
not do
NSA.
that with your CometNet connection,
No.
which I did.
Yeah, but you're in EMAC. I feel like that's a big part of
Yeah.
your
Yeah,
program.
for sure.
Yeah.
Uh,
If school says anything, it's like, that is basically
And
research.
you know what's interesting is that the video cuts here.
yeah.
And
So
you-
I took the whole video and found what part I should loop,
Yeah.
and that took a lot of thinking.
And that's to me very close to the moment where it cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what that gives the
Literally.
that's what gives like the barbershop feel too. It's like that's really the same movement you get when you're about to get a straight razor shave.
Yeah.
They will grab your neck. And,
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that aggressively, but
Well, but no, there's no aggression.
Yeah.
Aggressivity. There's even a kind of a
That's what interested me. I found the
Something-
image of it. The part where he's holding him by the
Yeah,
shoulder, there's something really
it's
iconic about it.
Mhm.
In a, I use the word sensual, and it's,
Uh-huh.
but it
No,
is.
that's right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh,
That's right. There's
uh,
something.
yeah.
Knowing that it's from that video for me gives it a lot more weight.
Mm-hmm,
And then the interplay between prey and
Yeah.
prey, you know.
Mhm.
Well, it's one of the other elements to this work is that Jihadi John himself is a meme.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how much people are aware of that whole culture, but it appropriates this stuff like crazy. And all the permutations of how to use this guy and Photoshop him in different
Mhm.
jokes and that kind of stuff. Which is something, I don't know, I'm really interested in with media. It's because we kind of like pretend like we don't use that in that way. But I don't know, there's a weird relationship with cultural trauma and how we process things.
Well, look at Gilbert Gottfried when he made the first 9/11 joke. Like, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, if you cultural trauma, you've got like blacklisted basically,
Mhm.
and now people make 9/11 jokes all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not even a big deal.
One, yeah, the whole.
I don't think
Progression
I've
of
heard
that.
the 9/11 joke.
You haven't?
Mm-mm.
7-Eleven was a part-time job, was one of the current ones.
Well, the big one on the internet is Will Smith dancing. Is it Will Smith from what's it called? If we're talking about memes, we're gonna stay in that genre. Will Smith dancing on the towers when they're coming down.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah,
There's one with the.
that's a big one. When it comes to like memes and trauma, yeah, I think it's from his TV show Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that
I have
intro of him
not seen that
dancing,
one.
and he dances in the same step as the way the towers fall.
Okay. There's one. I know there was a whole series where
It's
people would,
disrespectful. Yeah.
like, in the smoke cloud, put different cartoon characters' faces and stuff, because everyone. It was after all those conspiracy theories where everyone was, oh, the.
Well, jet beams
Yeah,
don't
the
melt.
jet fuel can't melt steel beams.
That's a meme now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's making fun of all the conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, I mean, American. You know.
Yeah. But conceptually, there's something a lot, like, and that's the problem with them being jokes. It's easy to dismiss them as something surface level, but conceptually, there's something a lot deeper happening with language. But, yeah. I also do these.
It's a nice piece.
Yeah, we'll see what
Powerful.
we'll see what they say about it.
Where did you submit it?
There's a digital pop arts festival happening in Athens. I called it pop art. We'll see how they feel about that. I'm trying to find these. Okay, yeah. These are the kind of emoji things that I do. This one's called Other Drugs.
Are you carrying a dead child?
I'm not sure if it's alive or dead. Let's see that. Yeah. Another thing to think about with our stuff is the virtuality of virtuality, like the mixed resolution. The one piece you showed at the beginning had that a little bit when you start to zoom in really close and it gets pixelated.
Yes.
Like that quality I find really interesting about the screen, because it's the way it plays with space.
Yeah.
Because there's screen space, and when you blow something up really close, it's still existing within high def, but it's a low res, so to speak, image. I think, yeah. I don't know. I think that's something that a lot of art today does trends towards trying to make everything look like a retina display. And I don't really think that's how it happens for just how we read images. We look at all the, I don't know, that's what I would call the tactility of the screen. It's not in its like brush strokes or its pigment or any of that, but resolution.
Yeah, definitely.
And compression artifacts and the decay of something being transmitted or changed into a different file format.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the texture of the digital media. You can observe it. Something that's fascinating is compression of moving images, and what's happening if you just freeze them and look at is actually presented.
Right. Yeah, that's really difficult when you like I always have to rotoscope when I make these GIFs because it's usually a full scene.
Oh yeah.
And I do it in Photoshop because that's all I ever learned, and I mostly picked it up myself. But it's really easy to track things in motion. But when you're erasing them out frame by frame, they're so indistinct.
Yeah.
Like where someone's hand might be positioned, you can't see it anymore. It's just like this, I don't know, cloud.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay. Well. Stop. Okay. Well.
He wrote the Facebook drama. It's a movie on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a whole made up. It's like a Facebook.
So does he have like Facebook